Ladies and gentlemen, it's Law of Sines time again. We're going to pick up where we left off last week. I'll actually start off by even solving the sides like we did last week, and then we'll start talking about the angles. Now, there's a little bit more going on here than we're going to talk about today. I might bring up the ambiguous case a little bit later, and I might give you some links as well if you want to research it, but this can be a little tricky. So let me talk about the law of sines again. I'll remind you that there is a ratio that we have, that if you take the sine of an angle and you divide by its length, that's going to be true for any of the side angle pairs. So if you have the sine of A and you divide by length A, that's going to equal the sine of B divided by length B, which is going to equal the sine of C divided by the length C. So you can use any two of these to help find what you don't know. In this problem, I'm going to just make sure I label everything. I'm going to find all the sides and all the angles. So the first thing, just a reminder, if this is angle A, then little a is across from that. If this is big B, then this is little b. So little b is 56.3. If this is big C, then this is little c, which is 80.2. And I also know that big angle C is 67 degrees. Okay, so what I need to solve for are little a and then the other two angles. So this actually has theta marked, so what I'm going to do is find theta first. Theta would be big B. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to write a proportion, but this one's going to be a little trickier to solve. So to write my proportion, I need to have a side angle pair. It doesn't matter if you have angle A inside A, angle B inside B, angle C inside C. Any of those will work, and if you look, I have those two. I have angle C inside C. So I'll write a proportion that says the sine of angle C, which is 67 degrees, divided by its length, 80.2, equals, to find theta, that's the sine of, I'll say angle B, which is theta, over 56.3. Now to solve this proportion, it's a little bit different because you're going to have to first isolate the sine of B. You're not going to be able to just isolate B. You need to isolate the sine of B. So to do that, you would multiply both sides by 56.3. And what you have is this whole left side, 56.3 times the sine of 67 over 80.2. That equals the sine of B. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually figure out what that is as a decimal. I'm going to say 56, no, make sure you're in degrees again, 56.3 times the sine of 67 divided by 80.2. And you get 0.646. So 0.646 is the sine of B. Now, let's think about the unit circle. We're going to kind of try and connect this back. If you say that 0.646 is the sine of B, remember sine is the y values. So if we're looking at the y values of all these points, sine is positive up here. Sine, the biggest sine could be is positive 1 right there. The smallest it could be is 0. So it's always going to be between 0 and 1. The y values are. And here it's saying sine is 0.646. So I'm just going to kind of draw a triangle, something like that. This height is 0.646. And I'm looking to find this angle. So to do that, I need to use inverse trig. I'm going to say the inverse sine. Because I know the ratio, I'm looking for the angle, I'm going to use inverse sine. The inverse sine of that decimal will give me, like, when is that, what angle has a y value of 0.646, the height, and it would be 40.3 degrees. So theta is 40.3 degrees. Okay, so you find the inverse sine. The way you solve this equation, you want to flip the inputs and the outputs, but when you do that, you're not taking an inverse function, so you use the inverse sine. Now the cool thing about this is once you have two angles, you really don't need to do any work to find the third. You could use the law of sines, it'll work, but we also know that just from a geometry standpoint, I can just do that, and I'll actually keep all the decimals when I type it in the calculator, so I get 72.745, which I'm going to round up just so it's nice. It'd be 72.7. 72.7. Okay, so those should add up to 180, which they do. 112, yeah, okay, right? 112 and 67, and yeah, okay, good. All right, now what we're gonna do is, let me type that in. Well, A. Where's my thing? Okay, 72 point. It's a good idea to always check your answers. I feel like I'm one off. Plus 40.3 plus 67 is. All right, okay, we're good. Never mind. All right. We also have to find side C. Now that's what we did last week, so I'll use the same proportion. And you could use these angles, but just from a rounding standpoint, I think it's better to use the one that you that they give you. So I'm going to use this ratio. I'm going to say the sine of angle C, which is 67 over little c, 80.2 equals, if I'm trying to find little a, I need to use little a, or big A, which is 72.7. Now that I know that angle, 72.7, the sine of 72.7, I can actually find the missing side. So the sine of 72.7 divided by, I don't know little a. But this is what we did last week. This is just cross multiply now. So to do that, pretty easy. Let me go 80.2. 80.2 times the sine of 72.7 divided by the sine of 67, and I get little a is 83.2. 83.2. Now, it's hard to tell if those are right. There's not like a check for the sides. Like these have to add up to 180. But for these three, what you can do, like I talked a little bit about last week, is you can just make sure that you have the biggest side across from the biggest angle. So this is the biggest side. That's the biggest angle. The smallest side is 40.3. And that should be across from the smallest angle is 40.3, which is across from the smallest side, 56. So you can see that if those all match up, that's usually a pretty good sign. All right, let's try a couple more of these. So for the next one, we're going to find little c, we're going to find big B, and we're going to find big C. So what do I know? I know little a is 6.5. I know little b is 3.4. I need to find that one. Big A is 80 degrees, and that's all I know. So first thing I'll do is let's find, we need an angle because we can't find either little c or one of the, we need to find one of these angles basically to start. So let's do, how about angle B? We'll find angle B. So again, you have a side angle pair. That's definitely going to be in your equation. We're going to say the sine of 80 degrees over 6.5 equals. Let's do the sine of B over 3.4 because the length is 3.4. So now again, when I multiply both sides by 3.4, on the left side, I'll have this whole big thing. So 3.4 times the sine of 80 divided by 6.5. And you get 0.515. That is the sine of B. So again, the sine of B is 0.515. So what I need to do to find the actual angle then, like when is sine 0.515, you use inverse trig. So the inverse sine of this, and you get 31 degrees. So B is 31 degrees. Now again, you don't have to use the law of sines to find the missing one. Once you have two angles, you really have three. So let's make sure we type that in. Minus 80, so 100 minus 31 is 69 degrees. C, 69 degrees. So now I have all the angles. 69 degrees and 31 degrees and 80 degrees. Okay, so 100 plus 80 is 180. That's good. I still need to find one missing side, so I'll do that as well. Now that I know this is 31 degrees, I can do that pretty easily, and this is 69 degrees. So we'll say the sine of 69 degrees over little c, don't know it, is, I'll go back and use the original ratio that I knew, the sine of 80 over 6.5. So you'll notice this, once they gave me the angle side pair, that's going to be used in both of my equations. Once you have that, that's going to be used in both of them. Now to solve the side, that's the easier part. So we're just going to multiply sine of 69 times 6.5 divided by the sine of 80, and you get 6.16, which we'll say 6.2, because we're rounding everything to tenths here, so 6.2. Okay, now we have all the missing sides. Let's just make sure, is that the biggest? No, that's the medium. So the biggest angles across from the biggest side, the medium angles across from the medium side, and the smallest angles across from the small side. So that's good. So the only thing that's different here is you're going to have to use inverse trig to find the missing angles. Now, this is a practice problem. So again, the way I want you to treat this is like we would in class. You hit pause, work out the problem, find all the missing sides, find all the missing angles, then watch me do it and see how you did. So now we're going to go. All right, you did it. Great. Let's see if you got the same thing I got. Let's see. We'll find, we know little a is 45. We know little b, I don't know little b. I'm going to find that. I know little c is 36. Do I know angle A? I do, 120. Do I know angle B? Nope. And angle C? Nope. Okay, so let's first find the missing, let's do the angles because I've been doing them that way. Angle B. So to find angle B, I need a sine angle pair. Check. Sine of 120 over 45 equals the sine of B, don't know it, over little b. Wait a minute, I can't do this one. I need to find c. So you'll notice I don't know anything about b, so I can't do b. But I can do c because I know the side. So I'll say the sine of big C, which is theta, over 36. So depending on what information you're given, you might not be able to solve it that way. To type that in the calculator, multiply both sides by 36. 36 times the sine of 120. Hey, that's on the unit circle. Divided by 45 is 0.6928, and I'll take the inverse sine of that. So again, I'll write it out so you can see it. The sine of C, wait a minute, that's not going to work. What did I type in wrong? Oh, I used the previous line. Sorry. 36 times the sine of 120 divided by 45 is, there we go, 0.6928. So the sine of C is 0.6928. To find actual angle C, you need to then do inverse trig. So inverse sine of that gets you 43 we'll say 9. So big C is 43.9 degrees. I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties here at home, guys. Sorry. Okay. Now that I know that, I can do 180 minus 120 minus 43.9, and I'm going to get a pretty acute angle here, 16.1. So angle B is 16.1 degrees. Now, the last thing I need to do, now that I have B, angle B, I can now do law of sines to find side B. So let's use the same ratio they gave me in the beginning, the sine of 120 over 45, because that's the one I started with, is the sine of, now that I know angle B, 16.1 divided by, I'm looking for side B. So that's cross multiply time. 45 times the sine of 16.1 divided by sine of 120 equals, come on, 14.4. 14.4. So just make sure, can that work? If this is 14.4 and this is the smallest angle, I just erased 16.1. Smallest angle, smallest side. Biggest angle, biggest side. This is 43 degrees, that's in the middle. 36 is in between 14.4 and 45. So I feel pretty good about that. What you need to do now is complete your Schoology assignment, and that will be your week's credit. So good luck, and if you need help, hit the discussion board, and I'll try and be on every Thursday for you. So see ya.